Hey, it's Raven Tactical here. It's been a long time, maybe a month or greater, since I've done kind of the whiteboard concept. I'm working on maybe a little bit of a concept series for Prepping 101. I know a lot of people talk about various things, like we get into advanced topics. We talk about things like, how much food you should have and all this, and we kind of get into the parts where we've been doing it for a while, so the advanced side of it's coming out, and we're kind of preparing for a longer term process, and we're building up to it. Um, but some people have asked, and some people want to go, well, how do you start, right? How do you start preparing? So I'm kind of doing kind of an intro concept to getting people a little bit familiar with it. I'm going to give a brief overview in this video, and then I'll kind of go through specifics and upcoming videos in a series. Um, so prepping 101, right? So my opinion, you need four things. Maybe there's five that someone could add in: water, food, shelter, and defense. So water, I'm going to start with that one right away. Um, Water, we're looking at 5 gallons per person per day. So it's a 5 gallon bucket. So it's a lot of water. So having this much water stored in your house gets heavy. I mean, you're looking at 8 pounds roughly per gallon times five. So you're 40 pounds per day of water, right? And now someone's going to ask me, hey, that seems like an awful lot of water. I only drink maybe half a gallon or a gallon a day. And I'm like, well, that covers one. A gallon of water per day is the minimum that you want to be at. That keeps you hydrated, keeps your body lubricated, because water keeps your body going. It gives you energy, lubrication, keeps you from getting as sick. It keeps you from going into dehydration, so it helps fight illness. If you're strenuously working, 1 to 2 gallons easily can happen if you're sweating a lot. Excuse me. Um, I know for my instance, when we were overseas and the temperature was over 120 degrees, we were drinking water and going to the bathroom at the same time. You were just dehydrated. Well, I wouldn't say we were dehydrated. We're trying to stay hydrated. It's just you're going through so much water that it's a real kind of concept where you're trying to stay hydrated, and it gets difficult. And you're drinking so much too. You wind up kind of getting a little washed out. So with the water concept too, having electrolytes, maybe having some powdered packets like powdered Gatorade adding to it helps. Now, where's the other 2 to 4 gallons kind of work into it so that you're up to five? Well, you have to consider that you'll be doing a cooking. So if you have rice, you needed water to cook with. You need water to clean your pans with. You need water to bathe with. Now, obviously, you're not going to get a full hot shower with this. It's going to be what the military would call taking a hose bath or taking a sponge bath, where you're kind of just getting a wet towel or a wet rag and washing the important parts or washing your face. So necessarily those couple gallons you're using for cleaning plates and yourself don't have to be potable water. So you have non-potable and potable water. And I'm hopefully getting it right. So potable water is drinking water. Non-potable can be used for cleaning, dishes, showering. You don't necessarily want to drink it because it's not completely purified. It's clean, but it's not purified. Might be filtered water, I guess would be the best example. A couple things too with that is just think of how much you're going to be doing if you're sitting, farming by hand. You're walking by foot, and you're doing things where you no longer have a car right now because maybe you don't want to go to town. Maybe you're having to even cut down trees and you're starting to process and for lumber for making something, or you're making firewood. Um, One thing too would be food. Food would be something that's important as well. You're looking at between 2,500 and 3,000 calories per day, and that could be something where you look at the concept of that's kind of a minimum standard for at least actively being alive. You could double that with strenuous work. When we were doing winter cold weather training, we're probably easily burning between 6,000 calories between snowshoeing, skiing, pulling a sled, setting things up. You got to the point where your body, when you got done with the ruck and trying to set things up, you started to actually start to puke. And it wasn't because you were sick, it was just you had to eat something because your body was exhausting so much energy that you're starting to burn. You'll start to burn fat first. Once you burn all your fat, you start to actually burn muscle, which that's getting to a scary point in there. A side note would be Mountain House Foods. Really, when they tell you they sell you a 30-day supply, you're looking at maybe 15-day supply, because Mountain House is selling the minimum 1,200, 1,500 calories per day, which is enough to keep you alive, enough to keep you alert, but it's not enough to keep you from maintaining weight and maintaining strength. You're going to be continuously losing weight, or you'll be eating twice as much food. Shelter. The body wants to be around 98 degrees. So where does shelter fall in? You live in a cold climate. Right now outside it's 20 degrees. I got the garage door open. I was changing oil, and before I did all this, that's why I'm wearing grub clothes. So your body wants to be at 98 degrees. So shelter would include things. If you're going to live outside and go ahead to the woods, you're going to be building shelter. Well, you need to keep it dry. You're going to need to keep yourself off the ground. You're going to need, because if you're laying on the ground, the cold will sap you. The ground could be 10 degrees and you want to be 98 degrees. The ground will pull heat from your body. It's just called thermodynamics. That's how it works. So you want to kind of keep in concept of how to stay warm, how to keep dry, how to keep everything there. If you stay continuously wet, you wind up with things like trench foot. You wind up getting sick. If your body's trying to fight and create heat and to stay warm, you won't be able to fight an illness. You'll get sick sooner. So things like that. I mean, shelter could be your house, but how do you heat your house with no power? Wood cook stoves, things like that. I mean, you could try using I'm trying to think of what it's called, the rocket stove technique, but be careful with those. You could burn your house down pretty easily. Those kind of things. Just kind of keep that in mind. Defense, I wrote a couple things. Gun, bow, rock, and traps, right? Trapping is not necessarily a defense thing, but it's more of getting food. If you have a gun, primarily I would say get a gun. It's important to have one. You don't have to have a full arsenal. You don't have to look like you belong in the military, and you don't have to look like you belong in a militia. A bow is kind of a defensive, offensive weapon in a way. You can use it. It's quieter to a point, but range is limited. And so bow hunting, if you ever go with people who bow hunt, they have a tendency to be shooting in ranges of less than 30 yards. I mean, you have to be well camouflaged, well hidden, and your scent pretty much has to be gone for a good bow hunter to get into a position. It's not like you're going to walk around with like a gun where you could drive. The rock is kind of a joke, but Cain killed Abel with a rock. So, I mean, in the sense, if you have absolutely nothing, you could probably use whatever's around you and make a weapon. Trapping comes into a play where you could make traps around your property. I don't advise it so much because we have dogs, so why would I want my dog to get hurt? But trapping comes into play for creating food, right? Traps are passive, so while you're doing all these other things, making firewood, collecting rain, water, doing all these things, your traps are still being passively thing. You know, maybe you get something out of your traps, setting several traps. It's a very hard skill to learn to do well. It's a neat thing to try out, but try your trapping. Try it now when you have the chance. Look up some things and then practice it out. But as far as guns go, I would strongly recommend getting at least a 22 and a shotgun. They're cheap enough that you could get both a 22 semi-automatic for under $150 and the shotgun for right about the same. So for under $500 with ammo, you're talking about a defensive rifle and maybe a small game rifle, or shotgun, I should say, for defense. And you're not spending a lot of money. You can get into other things too, and that's where maybe in later videos we'll go into maybe more prepper defense kind of like concepts. But I wanted to cover a little bit of this. I hope it helps. I know it's a little bit generic information. I don't generally like the generic prepping books because I think they're annoying. So let me know what you think. Give me some tips, give me some advice. Let me know what you think about it. And maybe if you want to give people in this channel tips who are new to prepping, put them down. And I appreciate it. Thank you.